So good afternoon. Today we'll speak about acute and chronic osteomyelitis. Acute and chronic osteomyelitis. Osteomyelitis means osteo means bone. Myelo means marrow. Itis means inflammation. So it is a inflammation of the bone and bone marrow by a infective organism. Coming to history, in early 1900s, about 20% of patients with osteomyelitis died, and the patient who survived had significant morbidity. So coming to introduction, so the osteomyelitis mostly is by the infection by bacteria. So the most common organism which forms a osteomyelitis is Staphylococcus aureus. The key to successful management is early diagnosis and appropriate surgical and antimicrobial treatment. So coming to classification, so the osteomyelitis by timing of the disease, we can classify into acute, subacute, and chronic. So how it is spread? It is spread to the exogenous or hematogenous. So by hematogenous, it spreads. So from the infection is already there in blood. It is known as bacteremia. So from the blood, it enters into the concerned site. It started infecting the bone, or by direct trauma, or by penetration injury. So by open injury or some penetrating injury, like cut injury. In this type of mechanism, the bacteria will directly enter the bone. So the type of host response to the infection, pyogenic or non-pyogenic. So coming to acute osteomyelitis. So we'll divide into acute, subacute, and chronic. So acute is within 2 weeks. The subacute is 1 month to several months. Chronic is more than several months. So most common type of bone infections, usually it is the most common type of bone infections usually seen in children. So decrease in incidence could be due to higher standard of living and improved hygiene. It's a bimodal distribution younger than 2 years or 8 to 12 years. More commonly seen in males. So the causes of acute osteomyelitis. So by a bacteremia, it is caused by bacteremia. As I told, it is caused by bacteremia. The most common organism is Staphylococcus aureus. So the bacteria which from the blood, it goes and seeps into the bone. The bone is supplied commonly. The bone is supplied by nutrient artery. That is from shaft diaphysis. From the diaphysis, the nutrient artery entered into the bone, which spread into ascending and descending. From there, it goes into the metaphysis. It forms as a loop. It's a hairpin bend like thing. So the bloodstream will decrease at the metaphysis due to the loop. So due to the less stream, the blood stays there. The stasis of blood will be there. So the oxygenation will reduce. So this Staphylococcus aureus is a anaerobic organism. Anaerobic means it grows in the absence of oxygen. So in this case, the due to the stasis of the blood and the bacteria grows there. Other factors such as localized trauma, chronic illness, malnutrition, or inadequate immune system. So coming to pathophysiology, in children, the infection generally involves a metabasis of rapidly growing long bones. The bacteria seeding leads to inflammatory reaction, which causes local ischemic necrosis of the bone and subsequent abscess formation. So after seeding the bacteria in the metaphysis bone, there the bacteria grows. After bacterial growth, this bacteria will release the proteolytic enzyme. These proteolytic enzymes are toxic to the body. So after releasing the proteolytic enzyme, this will go and destroy the blood vessels in the metaphyseal region. So after destroying the blood vessels, the bone doesn't have any blood supply from the body. So there will be a ischemia of the ischemic present over the bone. So after ischemia, the bone goes into the necrosis. So after necrosis of the bone, the human immune response will form an abscess, and subsequent abscess formation will be there. So uh, this necrotic bone is known as sequestrum. Sequestrum means, the definition of sequestrum means dead bone surrounding by a inflammatory tissue. So the region which the blood supply is gone, there the bone will be necrotized. So to counteract that, the body immune system will work there. So it forms a granulation tissue around that bone. So subsequently this forms a abscess. So to resist this abscess, to not to spread too much in the bone, this body will form a new bone formation around this abscess. This is known as involucrum. So involucrum is the new bone formation around the sequestrum. So the involucrum will resist the abscess. As the abscess is going on forming. There is no space to stay there, the abscess. So the pressure will increase inside the involucrum. So for that, it will comes out. It will goes through the cortex. So it forms as a tract. So that tract from the metaphysis, the abscess is formed over the metaphysis. From there, it forms a tract. So there is no space. The intramedullary pressure is increased too much. So it forms a hole and comes to the subperiosteum. So that hole is known as cloaca. And then through the cloaca, this abscess goes subperiosteally and forms a subperiosteal abscess. And this tract may directly connected to the skin. This is known as directly connected to the skin. This pus will spore out from the skin. So this tract is known as sinus tract. Sometimes after forming an involucrum, if the patient comes to us, we'll treat it with the antibiotic. So at this stage, the bacteria will dies. After that, the abscess which is formed inside the involucrum, that will be sterilized. So the bacteria dies after giving the antibacterial treatment. In this situation, the inside abscess will become sterile. So in this case, we leave the patient as we don't treat much that patient. The patient will come. This is the acute phase. Once the pus formation is known as acute phase. Here you will get a severe symptoms like fever, severe pain due to increased intramedullary pressure. Once the patient come in acute phase, we'll treat them with antimicrobial therapy. After the treatment, the inside the pus, then it will become sterile. So the pus remains as such as. So once the days progress, this pus is replaced by new bone. So in subacute stage, we don't treat the patient. So this is the metaphyseal. See, this is the sequestrum. This is the sequestrum. This is the involucrum. So this is the cloaca. So this pus comes out to the subperiosteal. This is the periosteum, and this is the subperiosteal abscess. So if the patient turn to us during the acute phase, we treat the patient. The infection, the bacteria is died. The infection is controlled. So they'll enter into the subacute phase. If the patient does not turn up to you, turn up to the doctor, so the infection goes on extensively and forms, and the extensive sequestrum formation will be there, and eventually the patient will end up in chronic osteomyelitis. So in children, this infection cannot enter into the joint because these phyces, the growth plate, act as a barrier. So it won't allow the infection to enter into the epiphysis or joint. So the patient will get limb shortening or angular deformity. So joints may be involved in some cases, like hip joint is most common, especially in intraarticular physis, proximal humerus, radial neck, and distal fibula. Metaphysis has relatively fewer phagocytic cells than the physis or diaphysis. Hence, the more infection is here. In children older than 2 years, the physis effectively act as a barrier, as I told. So the spread of metaphysis lapses. The metaphysis cortex is thicker, hence the diaphysis more at risk. After physis are closed, acute hematogenous osteomyelitis is much less common. So after the physis are closed, infection can extend directly from metaphysis into the physis and involves the joint. Septic arthritis resulting from acute hematogenous osteomyelitis generally is seen in infants only, infants and adults. So as I told, the most commonest organism is Staphylococcus aureus. It's a gram-negative anaerobic bacteria. So the infection, the Staphylococcus aureus through hematogenous infection in children, it involves the long bones, but in adults, it involves the spine. And other organisms like Pseudomonas most common in intravenous drug abuser, and Salmonella is in sickle cell anemia. And fungal infection in chronically ill patient on long-term intravenous therapy, such as like steroid therapy, and then some chemotherapy patients. So these patients will get fungal infection. In infants, Staphylococcus aureus is most common, but group B Streptococcus and gram-negative coliforms. Premature Staph aureus and gram-negative organism. Haemophilus influenza primarily in children 6 months to 4 years old. Incidence decreased dramatically by So coming to this way, as I told, patient comes to you with acute osteomyelitis, hematogenous osteomyelitis. The patient will complaints of fever, malaise, pain, and local tenderness. The pain is due to, as I told, the increase in pressure over the inside the envelope. So the pus is formed, and the inside the pus is formed inside the envelope. So the pressure increases. So the patient will develop severe pain. The patient will come with severe pain and local tenderness and swelling. So in this case, how will you diagnose the patient? Mostly we'll diagnose with clinical examinations, but some laboratory investigations such as white WBC, ESR, C-reactive protein, and aspiration from the suspected abscess. So in this case, during infection, WBC will rise. So ESR and C-reactive protein will rise. So the indicator, so we'll regularly check the C-reactive protein, whether the treatment is working or not. So C-reactive protein usually decreases after 2 to 3 days. We'll give the patient with antimicrobial therapy for 4 to 6 weeks. So this C-reactive protein will reduces by 2 to 3 days. So the indicator is ESR. So we have to keep on checking the ESR. So once the ESR is reduced, the infection is controlled. And how will you identify the organisms? By aspirating the suspected abscess and you culture it. So coming to radiographic, as the patient comes to ortho department, we have to see the plain X-ray because it destroying the bone. So in bone, we take a plain X-ray. In plain X-ray, we'll see as I told, it forms a sequestrum and abscess. It forms a osteopenic. If you see the X-ray in middle and the sequestrum will appear as a black, and the surrounding involucrum will appear as a bright. It's like it will appear as a white color. So the other scan is technetium 99, that is bone scan, and MRI. So here you see the plain X-ray. So this is the sequestrum. So this is the osteolytic lesion. The lytic lesion in middle of the bone is the sequestrum. So the surrounding white bone, this surrounding white bone is involucrum. So this abscess comes out. The abscess comes from the sequestrum. It forms a subperiosteal abscess. See, the abscess comes here. The periosteal reaction starts to form. So this is in bone. So in a bone scan, it shows as an increased intensity. So in bone scan, where the blood supply is increased, the intensity will increase. Where the blood supply decrease, the intensity will decrease. So in treatment, coming to surgery and antibiotic treatment are complementary in some cases. In some antibiotic alone may cure the disease. So it is acute. So the surgery mostly will treat the patient with surgery chronic. In acute stages, we'll mostly treat the patient with antibiotics. That is for 4 to 6 weeks. The choice of antibiotic is based on the highest bactericidal activity, the less toxicity, and the lowest cost. So first, initially, we'll treat the patient with empirical antibiotics. So we'll take the sample. We'll take the sample abscess from the. We'll take the abscess from the. We'll take the sample from the abscess. We'll just send it to culture. So the culture will take 3 to 4 days. Within the meantime, we have to treat the patient with empirical antibiotics. So after the sensitivity, the culture sensitivity will come. So in that culture, they'll tell which antibiotic is sensitive to the organism, which is resistant. So we'll select the patient's sensitivity, we'll treat the patient. So NAD has described the 5 principles to treat the acute antibiotic, acute hematogenous osteomyelitis. So an appropriate antibiotic is effective before pus formation, and antibiotic do not sterilize avascular tissue or abscess. Such areas require surgical removal. If such removal is effective, antibiotic should prevent their reformation and primary wound closure should be safe. Surgery should not damage already ischemic bone and soft tissue. Antibiotic should be continued after surgery. 2 main indications for surgery in acute hematogenous osteomyelitis: the presence of abscess requiring drainage. So if there is a pus formed excessively, so we have to evacuate the pus. Otherwise, the patient will not get relief from pain. And failure of the patient to improve despite appropriate intravenous antibiotic therapy. So the objective of surgery is to drain any abscess cavity and remove all non-viable or necrotic tissue. Subperiosteal abscess in an infant, several small holes drilled through the cortex in the medullary cavity. So if the abscess is formed, a severe abscess, how will you drain the abscess? We'll put a burr hole. We'll make a we'll put a hole in the involucrum in the cortex, and we'll evacuate the abscess. So this is known as burr hole technique. So intramedullary pus is found and small window of the bone is removed. Skin is closed loosely once the drainage and the limb splintered. Generally, 6 weeks of, as I told, 4 to 6 weeks, you have to treat the patient. Intravenous antibiotics given. Orthopedic and infectious disease follow-up is continued for at least 1 year. So, if the patient gets osteomyelitis, we'll treat the patient with antibiotics. So, after treating the patient, the not 80%, only 80%, 80 to 90% of the bacteria is killed. Rest of the bacteria is hidden inside the bone. So it will flare up once it get a favorable condition. That's all about the acute osteomyelitis. We'll continue the classes next. We'll continue this on next classes. Thank you.
That's it. Stop.
No, I resume.
No. You have to. Now you stop that.
That's all.
You stop recording it. Also.